Good afternoon, RPG Limit Break. Welcome to the Free Enterprise Highway to the Zemus Zone 5 Blue Moon Waning bragging match of Zeke versus Sorbius, with Scarlet Key on the restream and Darth Plagal pushing all the buttons. I'm working with Beauty and Discovery as your commentaries. Beauty, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to this race. I wish I had had the opportunity to go further, but I'm really excited to watch the rest of the waning bracket. Today it looks like we've got a Rydia start, a little bit interesting. Are you going to use her? Are you going to keep her sleeping so that she makes a good anchor? And on today's greatest anime villains of all time list, we have, of course, the Fable Gauntlet Golbez, as always, but we also have the guards, Kanazo, Antlion, Leviathan, Crotty, and Vivalis. What do you think of that list, Warlink?
But the Vivalis is always the one that if she's at a bad location, if you don't have a cane, it's going to give you a hard time. Besides that, we're expecting Antlion up the moon, and everything else is just basically, it's doable. Everyone wants to see Kanazo down the hook route, but depending on the party, this is an interesting set of bosses.
Yeah, you say doable, but that Kinazo, anytime I see that boss, I'm always a little worried if it's going to be in a high HP spot, like, of course, elements. That wave can get real nasty, especially if anchoring is a little bit of a problem for you.
Yeah, and if you have those, and luckily we have those 3 rages from the Korean kid, you're able to dispel the wave when you can also bring it up, but it's one of those things of do you need to dispel it to continue on, or just tank the waves?
Absolutely. And, also there's a lot of punchy bosses on this with Antlion. Guards, they are a quote unquote free boss, but in some of those high punchy spots, they could be problematic. Karate, of course, and Val as well. Thankfully, you got a little relief with Leviathan. Leviathan tends to be a little easier of a boss unless you get it in a high MP spot, as most of its attacker MP base. But this is an interesting list. I think a nice balance, not too hard, not too light. Really depends on your placement, how difficult this seed may be.
Yeah, and being at this late of the tournament, these runners will see those bosses like, okay, I know how to do it, since we're basically round 7 of the winning bracket, so basically they know how to do it, and off we go with this match.
All right, let's see who our second character is. We have an Edge. Oh, that is fantastic to start with. Little dose of vanilla as well with a legend sword. Not the best key item to start with, but hey, it is one. That's always good at least.
Yeah, and with that Edge, if you can find maybe a short sword, because we're running with the C Neki flag on, Edge power is taken away with all his gear with like a low tier weapon. If you're able to find like a short sword or a dancing dagger or a mutant knife, you can basically follow through all the overworld checks really easily without having to recruit any more characters if you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And, honestly, with Flame to start with as well, not a shabby attack, gives you a little bit of AoE as well, so you can plow through, stuff like the Calbrana dolls or maybe in an early Fable Gauntlet. That would be super helpful. But a little bit of divergence. We're going to see our first free characters with Rosa and Yang in Mysidia, and then we're also going to see our first key item. Check. Key item check. With a hook. Ooh, that is really interesting. With tonight's forced hook route to get underground, that is a very important item, because that means you at least know how you're going to get underground. It's just now getting ready for it.
Yeah, and basically it's at the point of getting your characters up to ready to get your party ready and have enough power to go through that hook route, because of the 2 ways to get underground, Magma and Hook. Hook is the harder of the 2, and basically we have to make sure. Basically, this is a forced hook, right? As you mentioned, we have to get through that, and we have to be prepared for that. So basically, we got underground access to it. Now, how long until we can dive to it?
With our second dose of vanilla, we have a Tella up on ordeals. Oh, there we go. Sorbius checking for the character on ordeals, but not taking the check. I was thinking with that edge, with the flame, you can get through some bosses, but a little underpowered. So just wanted to see what the character was before heading on out. Otherwise, we have Zeke doing some shopping in Toria, finding some Cure 2s. A self-summon for that Rydia will be very helpful very early, especially with the self glitch on. Self glitch being that if Rydia is in anything but the center slot, when she casts that self-summon, it will not take an EMP.
Yeah, and with that tell, that will raise a little flag up back in my head, because in this tournament, we only have see, no earn. Basically, any characters that are in the free locations, which are the Watery Pass, Ordeals, 2 in Mysidia, and when you raise the Hard Cup and Dancian, those are your characters. So basically, out of those 7 characters, pick your 5, and somehow, if you stumble across a early Darkness Crystal with that tell, Deep Machine is on the table. So basically, it's one of those things of, do I gamble early darkness or just roll with this team as is?
Yeah, I think that's a little interesting. I think it is maybe a bit too much of a gamble not to check for that early Darkness Crystal. If you get it and you're able to secure a D-Machine grind, that gets you to a point where you have more than enough levels to just roll over the rest of the seed, and puts you in a really good position that you just have to have your routing down pat to get through all those bosses. So, I think a lot of people favor fading checks like the Fabul check, because you can come back a little bit later and single dip it with the Sheila checks. But with a potential darkness sitting there, it probably isn't the best idea to fade that on this overworld before going underground.
And continue on the versions, Zeke is going to check the Warrior Pass, and Sorbius and Miss Cave, and so while hanging out there, he resets. It's like, no, I'm not going to deal with this boss.
And that is a big bummer to see that there, because that is probably one of the most free of free bosses, and it is in literally the very first boss spot. You would love to see it somewhere like the moon, but alas, not tonight. And Zeke, also seeing an Edward in the Watery Pass, decided to dip out of that as well. Didn't even grab him and send him over to the Tower of Wishes, where the Island of Misfit Toys tends to be.
Yeah, Edward is basically, without the spoon, he's kind of a little bit weak for the party comps choices we have. So I'm not surprised to see he's like, nah, I'm not taking it. While Sorbius pick up that Edward and Justin enough, just in case if he does find that early spoon, then basically Edward is almost equivalent to a Crystal Sword Cecil minus the defense and HP pool.
I've seen a couple good items on Zeke's side. In the Damsian Treasury, we saw a Thunder Claw, wonderful claw weapon with Thunder. We have a few bosses that are weak to Thunder, and that will be very useful with Yang and Edge in our party who can both use it. And on Sorbius' side, a Dwarf Axe in underneath the waterfall and Watery Pass. That will give you the opportunity to back row a cane if we do see a cane, though I think at this point we may have seen all our checks, so maybe not as useful, but you can also use it for that Cecil that we picked up as well.
Yeah, you can, once Cecil becomes pounding, you can use that Dwarf Axe to back glitch him, and it's just the really odd case of if you're using Cecil as your agility, you can just, your anchoring, you can get -5 agility out of that, so no harm to picking that Dwarf Axe.
All of our runners doing a lot of their early looting, a lot of their character checks. Neither one 6-minute into the seeds have even ventured into an area to do a key item check outside of our free one at Bedward. So very curious if Zeke will, with a full check here, he's taken a look at all the characters, if he will continue up Ordeals or route back to some of the easier checks. It looks like he's just going to go ahead and run Ordeals.
Yeah, and swapping Tau with that radio, basically maybe a probably keep that radio in the back pocket just in case of a potential D-Machine grind to slingshot her. Basically will be a 6x6, but a Tau is a sourceful anchor and plus a utility member, because early exit, once you get all the spells playing Berserk and all that stuff, until Rosa gets her spells up and running. Oh,
our first Lunar Sparkle in the waterfall spot, and it is Blarg, the Wyvern boss. Very good to see that there. So at least a little balance. We may have wanted to see Waterhag later, but seeing Blarg early means you don't have to worry about seeing it in a very rude spot. And we have our first boss on the list, Val in Ordeals 1. We do not have a Cane, but I think the spot is not a problem.
Yeah, I believe the magic base spot is not that high on that. So basically, if you making sure you have the right gear to have your edge able to attack it or have anything with dart against it, that Val is pretty easy. And with Zeke saying, yeah, I don't have anything to deal with that Val right now, I'll come back when I get a little bit more gear for this edge.
Yeah, you know, even some good throwing darts would be fantastic. Throw as an ability on edge has, I believe, 100% hit percentage, so will get through the physical evasion on that Val. So if Zeke can get a stack, and Sorbius probably when he sees that Val, they can get through that relatively easily without having to worry about knocking out of its spin.
Over on Sorbius' side, he went down to Antlion Cave and found CPU lying down here, and this is a simple fight to find CPU here instead of like a high HP spot that you have to go through and making sure your party is up and not take all the massive damage and get down to the critical HP. So I'm just happy to see CPU down here.
Yeah, definitely. With a Stardust item to get rid of it, that'll chew through all of the orbs, big and small, get you through. Sorbius is through, and let's see what we get from this check. Simply a Gungear Spear, but speaking of a dart, that would get through that Val. But Sorbius not even wanting to take the time to exit out of that, resets instead, while Zeke is heading into Castle Eblin for some looting.
Yeah, Sorbius decided that the experience and the use of Stardust is not worth for that Gungear, so basically reset out and just continue on. So no harm for doing that.
Interesting play from Zeke. A lot of runners do like to come to Eblin when you have the firepower to get through the trap chest, but Zeke probably feeling like his gear is not quite up to stuff, especially with that Val gating access to Ordeals, which is a very important check. Just trying to take the untrapped chest to get some gear, to get a little bit more firepower, and then probably will come back later to take the trap chest once we have gone up Ordeals and turned Cecil into a paladin.
Yeah, with T Wildish for this flex set, there's a good high chance to get at least some good katana blades for edge or something to dart at, but. Usually runners come here when they're about to dip down the hook route. So getting gear first is like the play right now for Zeke, just to get through that balance deals.
Sorbius finding our first completable boss on our list, the Karate, aka Yang in disguise, on top of Hubs. That's a great check, very easy one. Good to have a boss checked off the list. And Zeke finding some good gear over there. I did see a Drain Spear. That is a fantastic dart to throw. And I think I saw 2 Protect Rings, one of the best defensive gear. That will get you through a lot of punchy spots, especially early.
Yeah, and now it looks like Sorbius is going to take either a check that going straight to, but we'll do the defense here. So basically he's not going to bank on the single dip for bulls. So basically, I'm assuming he's just looking for making sure Darkness Crystal's not on the table, just to making sure, hey, there's no early demon machine grind available because that radio in the Tower of Wishes.
Speaking of needing AoE, there are the Calbrenadals in Fabul. I am fairly certain this flame will deal with all of them in one go. So, you know, maybe you are going to have to come to Fabul later to do the Sheila check, but you're going to get through this pretty quick. Queuing up even the rare dark throw. Don't get to see it, unfortunately. Zeke wrapping up the looting. Gonna go check the shop in Castle Eblin. I have a feeling maybe do a little bit of looting as well, saving. So I think that's going to be the case. Staleman chest, that is the one trap chest here in Cave Eblin. Probably low-key the most difficult trap chest in the game for when you take it, because those Staleman hit you and they put you to sleep. And next thing you know, your whole party can be asleep and you're just waiting for the Reaper to come get you. But this is also a very high-tier shop being gated behind a key item, so you can find some great weapons, great defensive gear, and I believe it is a guaranteed 2 tier 7 items. Help me out on that one, Warling.
I believe so. So basically, if you can find coffins, hopefully find coffin sirens or even hourglasses, which is easy to take on those trap chests in Evelyn Castle if you need to do it early. And if briefly we see a Sorbius side, completing the football defense give you the rat tail, and if you turn that in, you get that early darkness. Like I mentioned before, now you have that demon machine. Demon machine is now on the table. You have that radius. So basically, all you have to do is get through that ordeals with Val position 1, and you got Tele with weak, and basically you can get all your levels for the rest of the game. So if Zeke doesn't check, does the favorable gameplay, he might be a little bit behind.
Yeah, absolutely. That darkness crystal is a very interesting check early to get. That gives you access to the Giant of Babel, which through a bit of manipulation, you can get what's called the D-Machine Fight, which is an enemy that only does percentage damage, so easy enough to take with an early party. And you can take advantage of the life glitch that I think when we get there, we can explain a little bit better. And you will end up getting a whole lot of experience very early in the seed. What are we, 15 minutes in? So I have a feeling we will see that sooner rather than later. But that was just a fantastic check on Sorbius' side, and I hope Zeke does that as well, because I agree with you. I think it'll end up being a little bit further behind without it, unless sirens are in a shop with a fast 10 key items. That's maybe the only saving grace potentially.
Yeah, and if there's no sirens, we have an edge to steal sirens from the searchers in the lower tower, but with that early darkness, that's basically hit. This is your grind, and you have that a base level radius waiting, and you have the tower to use as your potential anchor. So basically, at this point, you're at okay. Let's grind this, and basically, hopefully, you have all the levels on that stuff just to basically face check. Hopefully, just face check for the rest of the seed.
Sorbius showing off another interesting strat here. A wonderful early weapon is the Dancing Dagger. Not the most powerful weapon, but if used as an item, kind of functions as a dart. So it gets through that physical evasion at Val, does a decent amount of damage, especially here on the overworld with some of these early checks. Also throwing some dark waves with Cecil that get through that, and aim with Rosa. You know, it's not the fastest fight in the world, but you will get through it, and you will get done with this Val.
And with that, Sorbius made it through the Val at Ordeals 1, and that will be boss number 2 for him.
And speaking of an early hook route, we are 15 minutes into the seed, and we see Zeke running down the hook route, maybe checking these bosses. This is, probably one of the earliest hook routes I've ever seen, and I'd be very curious to see. I think seeing those Dark Imps, knowing that they are a free boss, and speaking of another free boss guards, another one of our bosses on tonight's list, though in this spot they are indeed very punchy.
Yeah, this spot is the King Queen spot. What they do is just cast weak fire 1s and fire 2s. But if you put a physical boss there, you're going one hit and you're not properly geared. You're probably going to feel that in the morning. So yeah, this is with two like quote unquote easy bosses with Baron Guards in the first spot and Dark Imps in the second. This is not a really spicy hook route to deal with.
Indeed, and by what we saw and what Chad is pointing out, free is definitely in quotations. You know, they are weak to status effects, so if you have an hourglass item which applies stop, or coffins that cast fatal, that will take care of them. But like I was saying, they are punching. As you can see, they did punch Zeke's party down, so unfortunately not gonna make it through. That being said, Sorbius, once again showing that ordeals seems to be the play for so many reasons tonight. Finding the Fabul Gauntlet in the back attack spot, that is another one of our bosses on the list. That means we do have 4 bosses here on the overworld. 3 bosses. No, 4 bosses in the overworld if you count the hook route.
Yeah, and with the gauntlet here with the edge, this is like both a good thing and bad thing. You can still flame them, but there's one enemy type, I can't remember which one, that if you flame them, the enemy just heal instead of take damage. So basically, it's a little bit annoying, but you're just glad you find the gauntlet here instead of like anything incredibly rude, like the infamous the Masamune altar, or even walking down to Luke Cave and finding them down there and have to endure the whole music down there.
Yeah, I believe it is the ghost enemies, the ones that look like a little whirlwind that absorb fire. So you do have to figure out a different way to get through them. But, you know, with a Yang and even just waiting to come around to edge again for an attack, that will get you through. This may look pretty familiar over on Zeke's side. In the Baird 1 check, we find Mylon and friends. So the friends are on ordeals and with Mylon hanging out in Baron, and they're traveling today.
Yeah, that was the second spot in Baron, and the first spot we just saw briefly was Justice Shura, just one swing from Edge, and basically she just goes away. So basically Baron is not a difficult boss to get spot to get through to get the key item. Since no earnings turn on, that Piggy will just disappear. You get the item and just either face plant because I got a key item, or you hit a womp.
And Sorbius threw that Fabul Gauntlet, that alt Gauntlet there at the back attack row. Gonna go ahead and charge the Shrine. Now, interesting play, because I think there's very little that would be scary here, but if you were to take a wipe, it would be a whole lot of time to get back here. But we have seen Wyvern, probably the scariest of the bosses, but this is gonna be a great find regardless. Key item wise, we have a package, we have a pan on Zeke's sides from that Baron Inn, and now on Sorbius, he's got Paladin Cecil, he's got Tello with all his spells, probably feeling pretty set up to get rolling on the seed.
And we have triple value up on Mount Ordeals with Gomez, which I believe this might be the second worst thing you might see up in Ordeals minus Wyvern, because Gomez, you have to sit through a cutscene, and on top of that, he knocks out 3 of your party members if you're not quickly enough to knock him on, like what Sorbius is doing right now. So basically, even though he has low HP, it's kind of not that scary, but it's one of those surprise, like oh, what do I do handle with that? So basically, with that, that's basically. Get the Paladin. After this, you got the Paladin. You got Tell with all the spells, and with 4 of the 7 bosses, Sorbius in the back line is like, wow, this might be a quick C for this afternoon.
Yeah, you know, not only are we finding the hardest of required ordeals with all 3 spots having value, we are now sitting at 5 key items just in the overworld. That's really close to the 10 that you get to double your experience. So it does make you think, is that D money worth it to go up and take that when potentially you could just get 10 key items, maybe crack some eggs for much easier experience, much easier time of doing it, and potentially faster as well.
Looking at Zeke's point of view, he picked up the pan, he knows what the hook route is, and he's probably thinking of just doing the single dip for bull. So basically, if he's doing that mindset right there, he's not getting that darkness crystal anytime soon. So basically, what we said earlier, if Sorbius decides with 4 bosses down with 5 key items, and there's nothing else to, no good progression in the overworld minus going through the hook. Do you take the gamble of doing the D machine and check Giant to make sure to see possibly one of the required bosses are up there or not?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting one. I think that really depends a lot on what you see underground. If you see something like sirens, I think it gets you a little worried. But I think with 5 key items in pocket, what will end up being 4 bosses that you have done, 5th one if you do your hook route early. I think my play would be to check underground, but there's a reason why I'm not here and these runners are. They are definitely better than me, so I'm very curious to see what the decision will be made on both of their parts.
Yeah, that's the same reason why I was knocked out of the tournament, because I had access to early D machine, but didn't do it because it's a combination of it's a little bit too late to set everyone up to slingshot, or I don't have the proper party to warrant the slingshot. So that is why I'm up the booth and the runners are riding right now.
Sorbius doing a really interesting early play. So a lot of people like to keep those sirens, which call a random battle from the area you're in their pocket to the get underground, so they can call eggs, which are a fantastic amount of experience. But you can get a very good amount of experience from using one of those sirens up on ordeals to call 2 Liliths. They go down quick, and especially with Cecil going all the way back to level 1 when converted to a paladin, that gets you a very quick 15 levels and gives him the ability to punch things and hit things pretty well without having 1 or 2 fights where he is not as effective.
Yeah, that before this tournament, that little play right there is like kind of a niche knowledge, because at that we usually don't have a force hook route, but since we do, and like you said, level 1 we get a level 1 paladin, those Liliths are the highest, the highest ratio of XP to high XP to low HP for the enemy. So basically, if you want to just book it to the hook route right now, and if you don't have any other checks to get that paladin to get additional levels, just crack its siren up there and get a quick 16 levels.
And speaking of getting him to hit things, not the best weaponry to in the inventory to get him started with. So Sorbius making this Ebon play, more than likely going to take these trap chests, because the likelihood of getting a very good item from these chests are high, and you are very specifically looking for either your Crystal Sword or your X-Cal, so you can get this Cecil Burrin, as they say. Make him very cold.
Yeah, and if you're willing to somehow got lucky to get both the Crystal Sword and the X-Cal, hey, you can have the edge to dart that X-Cal just in case you find a single target boss or a boss that's like giving you trouble, you want to do quick damage. You can chuck that X-Cal in for a quick, fast damage off the bat.
Oh yeah, with this party, having a Crystal Sword and an X-Cal is fantastic. Edge being able to throw those things, that can get you out of a lot of tight situations. Like, for example, those guards, with the amount of HP in that spot, I think an X-Cal will take one of those down in one throw, and it'll make your life a lot easier. Just chew through a lot of XP, but HP in one go.
Found Masamune from that trap chest. So basically, more Hanzo Steel for our edge, but not the Holy Sword we're looking for our Cecil.
Masamune, not a bad sword though for Edge. Edge takes probably more gear than some. Maybe only Kane more dependent on gear to get him to really hit things hard. So finding that piece of Hanzo Steel, that end game weaponry for him is pretty great. Even if you were looking for it from Cecil, it's still quite useful.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the start of this race, Edge, with the C necking on Edge, starts off a little bit weaker than usual, because when in the vanilla game, you find him at level 25 with 2 short swords and a black belt, so he's black belt or gray shirt, so he's already like power up for that. But with Neki, he's kind of needs a little bit more gear to make him useful. But if you can find like a long sword or full moon or something like that, he gets power real quickly.
Now, I think you in chat will keep me honest on this one. I saw Sorbius try to cast Stone on the Staleman. Don't believe that is actually a spell that works on them, unfortunately. So, had to chew through it the old-fashioned way, but gets through and menued so darn fast. I didn't see what that was. Did you, Warlink?
It looks like a shirt. Not the... it looks like a shirt that dropped from that encounter.
And thank you to Posmorpheus in chat keeping me honest. You can, in fact, cast Stone on those Stalemen, just not Fatal, aka Coffin. Zeke about to get the good news that Ordeals was the right play and fading it was the wrong play. So coming back to do Ordeals, gonna feel really great on this, getting his key item, upgrading his Cecil and his Tella. And I think we're going to see both of our runners coalescing at the hook route very soon.
I double checked the tape, and that Staleman just gave a white shirt. So basically, something to give to your Rosa to help cast magic more better.
Absolutely. I am a big fan of making Rosa hit things, giving her a heroine robe, but more time than once I have had Rosa miss a berserk cast with a heroine robe on, so I don't mind seeing that white shirt. Great piece of gear for her to make her the white mage she was meant to be. And there it is.
There it is, our holy sword. Well, the second best holy sword. So basically, Sorbius now have an Excel Cecil, and now he can go and tackle spots without any problem with that Cecil.
Sorbius also probably making the smarter play. I would have been very tempted in that situation to just exit out. That was really what you were looking for. But the very next check was a Ruin Axe, which is a fantastic item for any of our mages. Like, for example, the guards we are coming up against. That Ruin Axe, you're going to probably put that X-Cal on. You're going to see them and maybe take it off and put that Ruin Axe back on to hit their mage weakness.
Yeah, and we kind of overlooked the Cave Evelyn shop. We have Bacchus wines for sale. So basically, for Sorbius, if he picked up a few wine here, and once he saw the Baron Guards here, he can just swap over to the axe, drink a wine, and let Cecil go to town with those guards.
Oh yeah, Bacchus Wine, a fantastic item. Cast Berserk on the character that uses it with this game, giving you a little bit of a boost to your physical attack in Berserk, as well as saving you a bunch of time with menuing. A fantastic item. Being a bit of an out-of-the-way shop, I think I would sell the farm to try and buy as many as I need with Yang, Edge, and Cecil. You're going to have a high usage for those Bacchus wines, and it gives you the ability to save turns with Rosa and have her do other things, or like potentially cast something like Blink rather than cast Berserk.
Yeah, and with this party composition, if Sorbius decides this is my party, I'm not going back to the Tower of Wishes to pick up that Radia. This is basically a Zerker team for the rest of the game. So picking up at least 10, maybe 20, maybe 15 at most, 20 if you like to have some more for the after party, but enough to get through the rest of the game, rest of the race, just to basically Zerk your melee party up, players up, and basically deal all the damage before you get knocked out.
Speaking of Tower Wishes, that does make me think, I don't think we have seen a Cursed Ring yet, which does put both of our runners in a little bit of an interesting position. Cursed Ring is a great item for taking advantage of agility anchoring. Usually in this situation, you put on that Tella, put him in the center row, and let him kind of drag the boss or whatever your fight is down, and let your the rest of your characters be faster. Tella doesn't have a lot of agility, will still function relatively well has an anchor in the middle, but without that curse ring, it does make it a little more tricky, especially as you get later and later into the seed.
Yeah, as long as he's still alive after the battles and picking up those XP, he might gain a little bit more XP to make some of your characters lose that RA1 relative agility 1 in fights. So it's one of those things of do I worry about the anchoring right now or the rest of the seed, or hopefully if I have to and Moon is required and have to sit through that cutscene, go back there, pick up that radio, she is a perfectly used for an anchor.
Yeah, absolutely. That Rydia did not see any battles, so she is still sitting at level 1 and will have very low agility. So kind of useful to have her in your back pocket. Here we're seeing Sorbius find the news about these guards, menning around trying to figure out the best course of action here. Casting cover on Tella, probably going for a stone cast. Thankfully, that Cecil getting a Cure 3 from Rosa, which is going to keep him alive. Tella, please don't do Tella things.
And also have that Cecil in the back row and able to do covers, stress on the rest of the party. And Tella just whipped that toad.
Ooh, that is really unfortunate right there. Like I was mentioning earlier, that Ruin Axe would do very good damage. I would start to think, do I really need to depend on Tella? Because even without the Curse Ring, still whiffed that cast on a enemy that is weak to it. But it looks like Sorbius is going to lean into the cover strats, putting the Crystal Helm, which has much better defense, back on Cecil. Maybe going to try again and kind of hope that Tella can actually land his cast this time.
Yeah, an interesting thing of he still has that X skill on instead of switching on Runics. Maybe he doesn't know that these guards, despite what they look like, are actually mage types.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of HP in the spot for being later. This is more of a story battle spot, so it's not meant to necessarily be something that you actually fought your way through. So it is a possibility, but looks like definitely leaning into letting Tella do the job. And just hoping that he can get through. Very good play on Sorbius's end, casting Blink on Cecil. Oh my gosh, my brain shut off there for a moment. Blink making you immune to 2 physical attacks, and there's 2 enemies on the screen. So if you can cast that Blink every single round, you will take no damage.
And Sorbius tries to use Stone on the guards, and Tella decides to do Tella things and whips that cast. So basically, we're back at square one and try another cast of Stone, and hopefully this will land.
Zeke showing off that weakness. Those mad ogres in the trap chest in Evelyn, they are ogres and they are angry, but they somehow are still mages, even though they only hit you. So Zeke equipping that Ruin Axe and making very quick work of them to get through that chest.
And second time the charm, Sorbius made it through the guards. That is number 5 on his side. Only 2 more to go before getting the crystal, and decides to go head first on these Dark Imps.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Dark Imps, once again, one of the quote-unquote free bosses where they do not have what is called the boss bit, which makes them immune to fatal sass effects. So if you can land the stone cast from Tella, that'll take care of them. Unfortunately, they are still pretty punchy, and they are one-shotting that Tella down. So got to get that Tella back up, get him covered, and hopefully let him land a cast.
Well, the good thing is Tella is now in critical HP, so he is automatically auto-covered by Cecil. So basically, step 1 is done. Now the second step is getting Tella to cast that stone and hopefully get that blink on Cecil, so he can take 2 attacks for free without having to take any damage. So doable, but he knows how to handle this with that little pickup.
Absolutely. Tella's still having trouble with that stone cast. Really unfortunate. Now, like you were mentioning, with Tella in low HP status, that does mean that Cecil will automatically cover. So Sorbius taking advantage of that turn to execute the rare Cecil Cure in battle strat. You don't see that too often. But turning to Zeke's side, Zeke finishing up with those trap chests is already done the looting in Eblin Cave, knows his way through the cave, and charging down here. You know, Zeke may be behind here, but I think pretty close. And if he has a little bit better luck with the RNG and the telestrats, we could see a very close side-by-side run into the hook route.
And third time is charm for Sorbius to cast that stone. And around the, let's say, pitfall around 37:30, he's finally underground.
Yeah, that is a very good time considering all the checks and a few bumps along the road. 37, great hook route from Sorbius.
Looks like he's double checking. It's like, wait, how many bosses on my map? 5? Oh, this might be get a little bit panicking on his side.
You know, if there's one thing, it doesn't matter how many times you play this randomizer, you still always fall for that pitfall.
Yeah, even with press B jump, you can jump over that pitfall. There's nothing else behind there, but yeah, you have to go. You have to encounter that pitfall one day or another. And Sorbius did peek on the top of the tower. It's some sort of leg. Is it full Rubikit, or we have elements on top of the tower?
Either way, neither one is on tonight's list, so I have a feeling tower will not be done right away. I'd be curious to see where Sorbius goes. Looks like maybe heading for Dwarf Castle, while Zeke's getting his rematch on against those guards. This time with cover strats from Cecil. I don't think there's going to be much of a problem on Zeke's side.
And Sorbius is going to Dwarf Castle first underground, which is basically 2 bosses here, and with the warp glitch turn on, he can get potential 2 key items out of this.
Oh yeah, Zeke going with that. Let Cecil hit things strat. Put the Ruin Axe on, tossed a Bacchus Wine, and yep, sure enough, gonna one-shot those guards.
And one little drawback with Cecil being Berserk, he only has one job, and that's to attack things, and he doesn't auto cover anymore. So basically, Zeke knows I can basically Cecil's in the back row. I can one-shot these guards. I'm not getting XP out of this spot. Let's just let Cecil hit things.
Zeke gonna take a moment and take that safety save. You know, it's one of those things that you can charge in. The script in the battle gives you a full heal before you go into that battle. So on Sorbius, he just charged right in and took it. Zeke wanted to play a little more safe, gonna save that way if he runs into any trouble with those Dark Imps, can just come back and doesn't have to go through the whole battle again.
Sorbius went through Bahamut at Dwarf 1, and at Dwarf 2 we have Dark Elf coming down, and Cecil looking down, expecting someone. It might be just the land. It's like, oh well, and start the fight with Dark Elf.
Dark Elf, fantastic boss to find here, or really anywhere once you have that Holy Sword Cecil. Weak to the Holy Sword, especially once in dragon form. So you see one throw of a Drain Spear to get the Dark Elf into the form, and then this swing from Cecil is going to do mighty damage. Yeah, well over 5,000, and that is a very easy boss.
Yeah, that X-Cal on that Dark Elf second form is just basically having cutting through a cold stick of butter with a hot knife. It just slices through, and that's it.
Ooh, I like that play on Zeke's side. Seeing, you know, a lot of rare things in battle today. You're seeing the rare edge using pin. Pin causes the stop effect, and as we are chatting about with these Dark Imps, you can get them to stop. Unfortunately, didn't work, but I like the thought on that.
Yeah, and basically it looks like Cecil's already Berserk, and it looks like he's going to toss 1 Kip Potion on the dead Dark Imps to get a little bit more XP out of it.
We can get underground now. We finally have the magma key. Our long nightmare is over.
Hooray!
Sorbius taking advantage of the warp glitch, which, you know, when you're in Dwarf Castle, you can cast warp and it will take you to not the crystal room behind the king, but to the crystal room in the sealed cave. So it gives you the opportunity to do 2 key item checks, one from the actual Dwarf Castle play and one from sealed cave, without having to go into the sealed cave. Getting the magma key, which is a item used to get underground. We don't need it, we're already underground, but hey, we can finally do it. And getting a Bahamut summon from the king. Are you starting to feel like maybe I should have taken that Rydia?
At this point, maybe not, just because if you're taking the Rydia before, you're probably always slingshot her to up to nuke. So the only reason you use Bahamut is just to as a AoE spell. So besides using Quake, so at this point, yeah, it's just money.
Very interesting tournament event. Sorbius doing Dwarf Castle, but choosing to go back into the overworld before doing any other checks. I'm very curious where Sorbius is heading.
Over at Zeke's side, he's doing the pan bonk first, so basically doing the freebie over there, and might go ahead and just do the full pan check and go into a pool. And it looks like Sorbius finally go through the barrier end, because that's where the pan Keon was shown, and he hasn't done that. So good. This will pay off, so he doesn't have to double dip Stealth Cave.
Yeah, very interesting. You know, I think a lot of runners, myself included, would stay underground and just finish up your checks there before going back up under overground, because you're probably going to get something like, for example, the Earth Crystal we just saw on Zeke's side. That is an overground check as well. But Sorbius coming back up here to do this is going to be rewarded, like you said, with that pan, which will save some time with doing that Sheila check. But about that party rock on Zeke's side. What's your thought on that, Warlink? Do you run that sooner rather than later?
If I was Zeke right now, I'll probably hold off, just because I have, he's doing the Famar checks just to get the freebie and check who are the bosses down here. But also there's the Dwarf Castle right there. That's 2 quick bosses right there if I'm able to overpower that. So it's probably the second check once I get back up over ground after doing the pan turn in. So it's not the immediate route right now for Zeke, because he's looking for 3. Sorbius, on the other hand, he might book it up there just because he's down to 2, and if he finds at least one of them, especially at Zop 2, he's at 6 and 7. He has the Darkness Crystal. Could one of the required bosses be up in the Moon Altar, and at that point there's your bosses, and now all you have to worry about is how do I get ready for the Zemus.
Yeah, still sitting at 6 key items, so you're about 4 key items off from the 10 needed to get double experience. That said, we know that this pan is going to give you an Earth Crystal, and over on Zeke, he showed us that the free key item chest in the Fey March was a little bit of imitation vanilla with a pink tail, not a rat tail. So that's going to put you even closer. I think that keeps you even further away from a D machine grind at this point. I think we're probably fully out on that.
Yeah, and for Zeke, if he does Fabul, the defend Fabul, he gets the red tail, and if he turns in that red tail, that's where the darkness. So that's 2 additional keyams that he doesn't have to get towards that 10 keyam double XP bonus.
Yeah, that being said, we have not seen Sirens in a shop yet, but we haven't checked Tamra. We haven't seen the Moon shop. So they still could be out there. That was making your grind a whole lot easier, but in worst case scenario, we have an edge in the party. Oh, that is, very interesting. Zeke can at least peek what that Lunar Sparkle is. I'm not even sure I would have done that before just casting Exit. Seeing Ogopogo, feeling probably some very good relief that it is there, and hopefully not going to be in any way, shape, or form necessary to take. Goodbye.
Yeah, and that evil wall on the queen spot, that's I'm going to deal with you hopefully never, because the the physical attack stat for that spot is like extremely high, and even though he cheats and just chains into a punch and get closer, he will punch really, really hard. So at this point, it's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing it. No, I'll last location it if I were decent runners.
Sorbius not even wanting to take a look. Yes, both of those spots in the Fey March, very punchy, and Evil Wall may be the punchiest of bosses and going to be extremely fast in that position. I think I would need to be in very dire straits to want to even tangle with that thing. I think you may be right, Warling. Sorbius, with just 2 bosses needed to get his crystal and go to Z, gonna do this moon check at only 47 minutes into the seed. I'm curious if we're gonna see any sort of grind before going to the moon to make the bosses a little bit easier, or if he feels comfortable enough with his party as is to take on some of these moon boss spots.
Yeah, but he's at 9 key items. He already set up shield 1, shield 1 and 2. Basically, is he just raising the whale right now and drop a save here to do the check to see if Sheila gives 8 key items to hit that magic 10 key items, so he can say, okay, I can do, hopefully find sirens up to the moon, or if worst case worse, just take moon bosses up to the moon as his shrine. And it looks like he's going back into the city, go to the Tower of Wishes, and most likely swapping out that tower with that radio for his anchor, with that anchor. So basically now he doesn't have to worry about his agility situation for the rest of the seed.
Yep, just got to worry about keeping Rydia napping. Let her take a nice snooze while you let the rest of the party do the work. But yeah, it looks like just kind of probably getting that Rydia anchor rather than raising the whale and going to the moon, in fact, because we still have those Sheila turn-ins from the pan. We still have that Earth Crystal, which 2 boss checks, very appealing with so few. But yeah, I think if Sorbius sees one more boss here on the overworld, you got to make a beeline for that moon.
Also mentioned in chat, there could be one path Sorbius could do. He could just do the pan turn and check now for 2 key items, go over to Zod for 2 boss checks over there, and then go up to the moon.
Sheila 1 with a tower key and our 5th protect ring in the seed. We can fully protect our party now. Physical damage is a nothing burger, I suppose, now. And 10 key items.
Yeah, now it's, let's see, there's well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 bosses that we don't have access right now. The 2 in Baron Castle, we know who's at the Bigan spot, the Twin Harp, and the Seal Cave, even though we warp glitch into it. This is, and sitting at 5 out of 7, do you just go through these K-main checks of the overworld, hopefully to find one of those 3 key items, or just basically go through and hopefully either Zot and the Moon has the rest of the bosses?
Yeah, very good thought. Sorbius turning in the pink tail, getting Artemis arrows, very good arrows. They do damage dragons pretty heavily, so they can come in use in some situations. Zeke about to get the good news that he can finally get underground. I'm sure he's going to be very relieved about that. Our lovely re-skirmished Scala giving us our 2nd dose, though a little less celebratory, of we can get underground now.
I'll give you a little bit more celebratory. And no, I didn't went to the store like a few hours ago to pick up one of these blowout noisemakers.
The comms of the people. Oh, interesting. 10 sirens and Sorbius's. I did not see where those were for sale. Yeah. Did you catch that, Warling?
No, I did not. Dwarf. Thanks to our restreamer, it's in Dwarf Castle. So basically, yeah, 10 key items here. This is his grind right now for the rest of the seed.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You take 10 eggs right here. You should get through them fairly easily. Like I was pointing out, these yellow dragons that hatch out of the eggs are dragons, as one would imagine. So Rosa with those Artemis arrows would do fantastic work. Between her and Cecil being a power couple, they'll get them down. 10 dragons, 10 of these eggs is going to be more than enough experience to take whatever the moon may throw at you. So once again, I think the question becomes, does Sorbius check that Earth crystal before going to the moon?
Yeah, most possibly, just because that's too possible. Here's the thing. We haven't had the pass yet.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, if somehow the moon has only one of the required bosses or none of them, he has to rework the LST. So I think if I were Sorbius, I would check Zot first. Hopefully, give the pass or one of the two bosses we're looking for, and then go to the moon, and then tackle the moon, and hope the last boss I'm looking for is up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a pass in hand, I think that keeps you on Earth doing your checks here. Pass being that way, if you do head up to the moon, you get the boss that you need. You can just go ahead and run right to Z, which is on the moon. Pass being, for those unfamiliar, being an item that lets you go straight to Z from the inn in Troya, so that you don't have to fly all the way to the moon, walk all the way through the lunar subterranean, saves you a ton of time. But yeah, without that, you have to get to Z through the lunar subterranean. So I think it makes a lot more sense to stay on Earth, and I'm really curious whether our runners will do that, or maybe take the gamble of just running to the moon early and hoping they find their bosses there.
Yeah, and just a reminder, if you're wondering, wait, why is where was Pride where Sorbius found him and Zeke hasn't? Well, Pride is up in Hobbs, and Hobbs is with this flag set. It's just basically at Mount Hobbs. You usually find a boss and a character to pick up. With no earned characters, it's a out of the way boss. It's a 10-second walk up there. So. Will Zeke just basically commit to the Fade Hobbs, which would basically has to find the rest of the bosses, while Sorbius only has to find 2 of the 3 where it's still missing.
Yeah, that is a very interesting one. I'm wondering if Zeke is remembering the Hobbs check, probably also feeling a little bit of something, seeing that darkness crystal and thinking to himself that if he had done Fabul earlier, he would have had a very darkness crystal. So Zeke may be feeling a little behind, maybe thinking that if his opponent did that, maybe they did a D-Machine grind. In fact, it didn't. But yeah, it looks like Sorbius going up to the moon.
And looks like Zeke is heading right and head towards the private treasury, and we all get to play everyone's favorite game of
Raid That Treasury.
okay.
Rate that treasury. Do. Sorry, I'm not as good as the original, but that is a really nice treasury.
Yeah, life staff. We got life staff, a defense sword, and and we picked up another protect ring. So if we wanted to, if somehow this became an ambidextrous flag set, we can have 2 protect rings on our characters' butts, and that will become money later down the line.
Oh, wow. Very first check on the moon, Sorbius seeing another one of our bosses. This is going to put him at 6 out of 7 bosses to get his crystal, and has not even checked the lunar subterranean. This may have been the right play on his part, but Zeke's going to show us the Earth Crystal Zot check too, so I think we're going to get a very interesting piece of divergence and see before Sorbius even does whether this was the truly right play, because I think everyone who has played these flag sets has gotten that one boss and zonked the rest of them and not gotten that second one. But Sorbius probably feeling really good with the odds now that may get the crystal right here on the moon without having to do any other checks.
Yeah, and he already does his already got his grind, did his grind, and basically he's at the point of, okay, let's hope those bosses are up in the moon and basically don't have to go back to the Earth to check either package or Zod, or even the super cannon room.
Yeah, and kind of going back a little bit, we were pointing out, or you were pointing out, that our karate boss was up on Hobbs, which is something that Zeke has not done. There are 3 spots on the overworld that are open to you right away: the Mist Cave, the Waterfall, and Hobbs, that have boss positions in them. And a lot of runners, I think, like to do those a little early and get them out of the way, because I can tell you from experience, they are very easily forgotten. So I hope Zeke remembers that, maybe fading them till very late, because one of his bosses is sitting up there and he has not been up there yet.
Yeah, it's one of those 3 bosses spots are one of those things that it could make or break your run. It might bite you towards the end, but if you're able to catch up without doing that check, the sea won't ran into you at the end. But with this point, with Sorbius just 1 boss away from go mode, and now after getting the information that you can get darkness real early, I think he's feeling getting way behind. If he's thinking, did Sorbius did a deep machine grind after getting that darkness crystal?
Yeah, I think the thought would be that with a deep machine grind or with an early darkness, you may just go ahead and do your giant, do your moon checks, and then come back and take care of Earth. So maybe Zeke's thought is here, let me full clear Earth, do everything I possibly can before heading to the moon, because if my opponent did that, this gives me an opportunity, maybe if my bosses are here, to be ahead of them because the moon did not have value. Now we know there's at least some value up here on the moon with the antlion in Bahamut Cave, but we're going to see whether this is the right or wrong play. With Zot 1 not being one of our bosses, here we go into Zot 2.
White ears on the piggy, and it's most likely a red boss overworld spread. So, and we have D-Lunars.
D-Lunars, yes. So piggy meta. So with C no earned on, all of the earned character spots instead have a piggy stand-in, and the piggy's ears and I think hands and feet all have a color to them that is relevant or related to whatever color the boss sprite is. So even in Zot, where you cannot see the boss, if you kind of know what sprite color is associated with the piggy's ears, you can at least have an idea of what maybe you'll run into. And with white ears, that does mean it would have been a red sprite, or a kind of reddish sprite, which is a lunar sparkle. Thus, are D-Lunars.
Yeah, it's either the 2 main ones you mentioned are red and yellow. There are like 3 other piggy colors that are like sticks out like a sore thumb. It's like if you see them, it's like, oh, it's this boss. Which those piggies are the ghost piggy, which is DMS, the void piggy, which is both evil wall and orbs, or the infamous pineapple piggy, which is Dr. Glugay.
I love pineapple piggy, so delicious, especially on pizza. Don't at me.
As long as Hawaiian pizza, I won't complain.
Zeke finishing up the Zot check, and we are going to see nothing but a Stardust Rod. So hard, no value, unfortunately, from Zot. That's got to feel a little crummy, and I hope Zeke is able to kind of recover from that, because I know sometimes when you do those long checks and you don't get any value, it can kind of throw you off your game a little bit.
It looks like Zeke is going up to the lower tower. We know either Elements or Rubicon is on top of the tower. That's not required. Is he just going to check, just doing the Super Can check and just do the Penguin special, or going to do the full check and hopefully gives another key item to do another boss check?
That's a very interesting question. I would think that you would do it because you are still missing a Baron Key. Baron Key being at least 2 unknown bosses. We know Baigen was in that first spot because of Vanilla, but there are 2 more bosses in Baron, and you do not have a Baron Key. That could very well have some very good value. You're missing a Luca Key, which has a boss in the Sealed Cave, and you're missing a Harp as well. So there still are a few bosses available to you with key items. So even if you know it's not a boss that you need to defeat, that is a key item check.
Oh, on Sorbius' side, he made it onto to the 2 rooms in the LST. Room 1 was
there it is.
Cyber guards, and in the room we find Kinanzo hiding out there.
Moon has fantastic value, Sorbius in go mode. This is a little bit of a scary turtle, but like you mentioned, we do have Thor Rages, which cast lightning, which knocks his wave away. We have some good damage from Cecil, which the wave is based on Knazo's HP, how much damage it does to you. So if you can do enough decent damage before it sends the wave over, it's not nearly as dangerous as if it casts it before you do any damage.
Yeah, he won Cecil first and Berserk Edge in second. First wave came through. It does a lot of damage, but with a Cure 4 with the party, this fight becomes a little bit trivial.
Yeah, and you have really great levels on your team. You've got 3 very powerful Zerkers, including a Thunderclaw, which Knazo, of course, being the water boss, is weak to thunder. You're going to do fantastic damage. Over on Zeke's side, seeing just the Magus Sisters in the cannon room. Kind of a nice boss here. You can just cast Flame, I believe, and get through all of them, or just have your 3 Zerkers take 3 swings and you're done. Nothing too scary at all. Oh, go ahead.
And we made it to the second form of Knazo, which is just goes in a shell, and basically you're home free for this battle.
Yeah, at this point, the only thing that's maybe a little annoying is when it's in its shell form. Every time you hit it, if you don't kill it, you get the little speech about hiding in its shell. It can slow you down a little bit, but not a problem with Sorbius. Just only had to see it twice. Gets a few extra levels, gets Rosa to White. Nice little bit of experience as well. Not that you necessarily needed it. I think it's going to be interesting to see whether we get a cheeky chest check here when you don't even really need to.
What are you looking for in this chest? Maybe a upgraded crystal sword?
Oh, wow. Baron in Heart. Holy Toledo. That is a whole lot of gated bosses on the overworld. This moon had insane value.
Yeah, if Zeke goes up there and find that Twin Harp and Baron Key, that is basically all the boss spots open to find at least 7 bosses you need to take over it. So, man, that room has all that value.
Wow, a full quote-unquote swag walk from Sorbius, not even taking his save after beating that turtle.
Also, we're getting some sort of like Z flags in the chat, Beauty. What are these? It's a little bit too early for nap time, right?
Oh, it's never too early for nap time, but I do digress. Z-Flags, actually, one of the neat things about our randomizer here is that the sprite for our final boss, Zemus, is randomized. Now, Zemus is a very rude boss, very difficult, even in potentially the easiest of spots, so we do not put him into the pool. He is always the final boss, but the way we kind of add a little bit of randomization is a lot of people, including our lovely Scala here, our restreamer, have put a lot of effort into making custom sprites, so you never quite know what your final boss is going to look like. So tonight, Warlink, whose butt are we going to kick? Before we find out that butt kicking, Zeke going to take a couple of eggs, doing his grind. Have a feeling probably going to go ahead and head to the moon after this.
With the crystal tossed out and queuing up Cecil with the pocket sprite to start dealing the damage, Zemus is transforming into.
Please let it be cute.
Ooh, Zemus.
I am not familiar. Do you know who this is?
I know this. If you're a fan of Kingdom Hearts, this is Zemus from Kingdom Hearts 2. Or maybe 3, I don't know. It's from Kingdom. I know for sure it's from Kingdom Hearts 2. Yeah, don't ask about the lore of Kingdom Hearts. It's just chaotic.
I know enough about that one. You know, without the red of coming from the hands, I'm not sure if those are like weapons or not. I would think it would have been Rufus from Final Fantasy VII. But we're seeing, this will probably be a pretty textbook fight, but we're seeing Rydia throw out a crystal. Gonna nerf that first Big Bang. Oh, fantastic targeting. That first counter nuke goes right on her. and Sorbius off and running.
Yep, everyone is all sorted up, sitting. He's sitting on Rosa, waiting for the Big Bang to go out. He's going to toss a cure for the whole party, and hopefully it has enough damage to get through and not see the second Big Bang come through.
Yeah, putting out really good damage. Let's see, probably about 7,000 around. You probably won't see that second Big Bang. I think you're right. And with Rosa here curing from the second one, even if you do see a second Big Bang, at least Cecil and Yang are fully protected. They will be able to take full damage from it and keep going. I think maybe the only worry is that if you do see it and you get wombo comboed into the final phase of BDO, that could get a little dangerous, but not feeling we're going to see that tonight. Yeah,
and basically if you sit on Rosa if the second Big Bang came out, you probably have enough time to throw out that cure forward to the party, just to, as long as the Big Bang then doesn't high roll on her. So this here is just he's basically has his control down, putting the dot down in the race room, and hopefully doesn't get the combo player come out.
Zeke raising that big whale, talking to that crystal, going right to the moon. Very curious to see if Zeke will kind of play it straight, if you will, with going to cave value. It's a great first play when you go to the moon because you can actually see the sprite, whereas all your lunar subterranes you can't. But looks like that's going to be the case. But unfortunately, unless some really bad luck on Sorbius' side, not going to be able to surmount this amount of time difference.
Yeah, this is basically Sorbius' race, and it looks like he's going to tell us a crystal on Zemus, hopefully to north of the second Big Bang if somehow that comes through, and this counter gets the Susso, which shouldn't be too much.
Yeah, so nerfing the Big Bang being Zemus's big bad attack that does an absolute boatload of damage. He gives you a shake to warn you that he's going to be doing that, and then the next turn sets the attack power super high. If you can hit between that setting the attack power Big Bang super high and the execution of the Big Bang and hit him with a spell or an item that casts a spell, it will reset that attack power. You will have to eat a counter nuke, but then Big Bang does almost no damage at all.
And we finally made it to the last phase on Sorbius with the rocks. Everyone survived through that with a couple swings, and there goes Zemus down. And Sorbius won this race with a time of 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 19 seconds. Get your GGs for Sorbius.
GG to Sorbius, 1 hour and 9 minutes. That is an extremely jetty C. And with that beep in my ear, I think we are joined by our winner tonight, Sorbius. Sorbius, GG's on a fantastic run.
Hello. Yeah, that was not what I was expecting.
Yeah, I imagine seeing, so many bosses in the overworld, 5 by the time you're through the hook route, you're thinking to yourself, holy cow, this is going to be a fast one.
I mean, not to mention the darkness burning a hole in my pocket that we had since midway through the overworld.
Yeah, that's the question I'd like to bring out. You went through, you're the first runner to went through the defense first and realized that early darkness crystal, and with that talent, was D Machine ever in your mind to do, or basically you're at, I don't need to do it?
It's a hard sell for me to do D Machines with a Cecil Edge, just because, if you find some decent weapons for either or both of them, you don't really need the levels that you get off a D Machine. It was definitely in the back of my mind, like, well, if I find 7 bosses in the next 10 minutes, I guess I'm gonna go do it, because there's not really a better way to get the levels. But I was hoping to just get underground, find a handful of sirens, get 10 key items or not, and just do that instead, since I wasn't gonna take Radiant to nuke.
Yeah, I think having that Zerker party paid out because, speaking of spellcasters, Tella really just not working with you very well when it came to that hook route. I think you had, 5 misses between all the toads and stones. That had to have been a bit frustrating.
Tella and I are not on speaking terms right now.
You're not even my anchor. I'm gonna go get rid of you. So I'm very curious. You took those chests. I think there was a little bit of a curiosity if you would take those ribbon room chests, having the crystal and seeing the Baron and Harp. That must have been really interesting because you faded a couple checks on Earth and went to Moon maybe earlier than some may. In terms of going to Zot with an Earth crystal in hand. That probably felt pretty good, huh?
Yeah, realizing that very likely. The last boss was behind one of those. I mean, it could have been behind Earth Crystal or Package 2, but with those gating items on the moon, it was pretty unlikely that, my opponent had stumbled across another boss and got go mode off of Antlion.
So what was the thought of going to Moon before doing your Earth Crystal check? That's 2 bosses up there. Could have had some good value up there. Thankfully, in your case, it didn't. But was there a particular thought to fading that and going Moon instead?
Honestly, I decided to take a page out of my friend Elvinsar's playbook, which is just go to the Moon aggressively. I needed 2 bosses. There was definitely a bunch of stuff I could have checked on Earth, but it was going to be slower than getting the peaks at the 6 boss spots on the Moon. So, yeah, just decided to attack aggressively, as it were.
Yeah, that's one of the things with a randomizer. Sometimes you got to take those risks and you got to kind of play the odds there. And in this case, it worked out really well for you. So you are through now the Waning round of 7 and on to round 8, which starts with a best of 3. You've got Frankie Bones coming up. Any thoughts on your upcoming matches with Frankie Bones?
It's gonna be something to get them scheduled this week. But other than that, no. I'm just ready to keep going through this tournament.
I think that's about everything I had. Warlink, any other questions for our winner tonight?
No, I don't have anything else to say. So basically, Sorbius GG on this race, and best of luck in your next match.
Thank you, and thanks to all you for putting this on. This is one of the reasons I like racing is getting restreamed. So cheers to all of you, and have a great day. Bye.
You as well, Sorbius. Thank you so much, and GG's again.
As you saw during our interview, Zeke went through that ant-line, got his 5th boss, and saw the dot done, and basically forfeited out of it. Basically, he's 2 bosses down, 2 bosses left, and don't give any issue of forfeiting right now since you're that far away. So make sure you give him the GGs, and we have Zeke in the call with us. Zeke, GGs on that race.
Zeke, not sure if you're talking, and unfortunately may be on mute. Don't hear you.
All right, sorry, was waiting on voice to connect.
No worries at all. GG on that run. Didn't pan out for you tonight, but still a fantastic run. Very jetty seed. What's your initial thoughts on that?
I don't like jet seeds. I never have. The longer and more confusing the chains, the better.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think those long, confusing chains can give you a bit of time to think. I think probably one of your earliest challenges was that Val up on a Ordeals 1 with Atella and Cecil in party and running into kind of a meaner boss there. What was your thought for getting through that Val and trying to find a solution to her?
The answer was go loot Eplet and go find what I could find to throw at her. My goal was to hopefully find something strong. If I'd found like 2 X-Scals in the trap chests, might have a chance. If I'd found a way to get through trap chests, I was going to clear those, and if I'd found a pair of X-Scals, one would be for Cecil, and the other would be for removing Val from the screen.
Always a good day when you can remove Val.
White Spear worked well enough.
Also, another question to bring up. You took the interesting route of dipping down the hook round and check the bosses down at the 15-minute mark. What's the reasoning behind that?
part of it was I wanted to loot out Eblin Cave for any potential items for Edge to equip, because at that time I was set at, I believe it was Thunderclaw, Poison Claw. Not ideal.
No, not ideal at
No.
all. We were kind of talking about how the Snakey Fly can, Edge is such a great attacker and can have so much power early on, but without some swords, it makes it a little tougher. We did see you try and take those Baron guards. Were you trying to go for a play? Actually, no, I think at that point you hadn't been up at Ordeals yet, so it would have been difficult to get through there. But did you have a
I
thought
had
that
the
you might be able
Assassin
to?
Dagger.
Ah, indeed. That's a good point.
I was giving it one shot since I was in the fight at proccing the swoon off Assassin Dagger.
Now that's a cheeky play to do if you're able to get through that and get the procs.
Now, I think another question I had for you is what your thought was. You faded Fabul, which is, I think, relatively common for a lot of people to do. Worked out in some ways in terms of getting the pan before going there, so you only had a single dip. But with that rat tail into darkness, I know you were probably seeing darkness late. Were you feeling a little bit behind at that point? Did you have any thoughts in terms of like, oh no, I had a Tella, I could have done a D machine?
I felt behind as of about 15-minute mark. So... had nothing to do with Darkness Crystal.
Oh, I think we all can identify to that.
I pretty much play these seeds feeling behind lately. I haven't routed a Blue Moon seed correctly in a long while. But... it's a very volatile flag set, is part of it.
Yeah, very, very much agreed.
Yeah, as to continue on that, unfortunately, you officially been knocked out of this tournament. Do you like to give your ideas of what your thoughts about this flag set of the tournament as a whole, and if there's any like good points or bad points you can point out?
Well, first off, I'd like to thank Sorbius for knocking me out. I was not looking forward to possible best of threes, combined with having to run through a pile of European players for my Link to the Past stuff I'm doing as well. So that was going to make scheduling an absolute nightmare. So GG's to Sorbius for taking that off my shoulders.
A little bit of the silver lining, even if you do get knocked out, but a fantastic run through this tournament.
Top 8 on second tourney feels pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Better than I've ever been able to pull out. So GG again. Any final thoughts before we part for the day?
Thank you to the tourney admins for putting on a fantastic tournament. I may have had my gripes about the flag sets, as well as kind of regretted joining Blue Moon and not Red Moon. I really liked the concept of Red Moon. Even I would have probably had to learn T-Pro to play it, but by the time I realized it was a more interesting flag set, sign-ups already closed and I was stuck here.
Yeah, both of the Red Moon and Blue Moon flag set has their unique appeal for each one. So if it's one of those things of if after the match, like, oh, I should have done Red Moon, but hey, if you made it this far on this with this Blue Moon Waning bracket, there's nothing to sneeze at.
I mean, I didn't make it far in the Waning bracket. I started here. But thanks again to the admins for that. GG's again to Sorbius. Fantastic race. I also enjoyed my races this tournament with all the racers I did, whom cannot remember all of them. There was John, Charlie, and a couple others in the early stages that I can't remember. It was a month and a half ago. Smapety, I think. Thank you to Beauty and Discovery and Warlink for doing commentary. I'm going to probably enjoy listening to it. Let's be honest here. Thanks to Darth Plagle for pushing the buttons for us. And as always, where would these restreams, these tournaments, this community be without Scala Kitty? We love Scala Kitty.
Absolutely, the patron mother of the community, putting together so many great Z sprites, holding the community together. Thank you so much, Zeke, for a fantastic run, for being on the restream, putting on a great show. It was fantastic to watch and commentate on.
Absolutely. And have a great day, everybody. What was our Z sprite, since I didn't get to it?
It is Zemus from Kingdom Hearts.
With power over nothing, he has power over everything.
Yep.
And I heard that Sorbius gave us a harp to play today, so can I ask what that was?
We talked over it. It was Hurry Up from Final Fantasy VI.
Okay.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm close.
Wild Skull Kitty comes in to correct Warlink.
Yeah, it's Skullikitty being a big fan of Final Fantasy VII. You better remember
Really?
that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
But yeah, thank you
All
again,
right.
everybody.
Absolutely. You have a great day, Zeke. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming and viewing. It's been fantastic. And thank you, RPG Limit Break, for hosting our community today. If you liked what you saw, please come out and join our Discord. We have a fantastic Discord, one of the best communities I've had the pleasure of being a part of. You can learn all about the game, ask a lot of questions, get in on tournaments like this one, or just play our casual races as well. Coming up after the tournament, we have community club season, all kinds of very fun clubs that you can be a part of, and also take the opportunity. We've had some great racers today between Zeke and Sorbius, as well as some great racers here on our Restream team. So take a moment, click through, sub to them. And it's been a great day, Warlink. What's your final thoughts on that seed?
Yeah, since that seed really went fast, we didn't give us a chance to say, hey, if you like these two runs, go ahead and follow them on Twitch. And if you enjoyed our restreamer and tracker doing their job, you can follow Skalky and Darth Paggal also on Twitch. And make sure you also follow my co-commentary on Beauty Discovery, also on Twitch. He also does good races on his part.
Thank you very much. This is our last restream of the day for our matches, but tomorrow we do have an off restream match between Gabbett and Noob Tree at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So if you want to catch that, we will in our community have a Kagdar link to be able to watch them side by side. We also have great spoiler threads in our Discord where you can take part in the conversation of those watching. And the restreams will be starting back up on Tuesday. But for today, we are going to toss you over to Flossie who is running, I believe, a Blue Moon seed, and give you an opportunity to see a little bit more free enterprise action.
Actually, she's running Red Moon seed, so...
Oh, even more fantastic. A little bit of variation there.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Red Moon, it's basically a variation of... It's not slightly harder, it's slightly more challenging flag set of the two. So if you want to see... flag set is more like a puzzle instead of having power overwhelming, give it a shot when the restream races for this week comes up.
Thank you again so much to our Restream team. It's been a pleasure commentating with you, Warlink, and thank you, Scully and Darth Plagle on the back end as well. We hope you all have a fantastic day. Stay well, stay safe, stay healthy, stay awesome, and we'll see you after the raid. Have a good night, everyone.
Take care, and as remember, no spoilers or else you will get the newspaper bunk.